Now you're chilling with me in the throne room, and I'm Elle, your host tonight. So at this time, I'm going to talk about Jaqen Hagar. Now, I probably messed up. I thought it was Lahar. I guess I don't read right, whatever. His name is Jaqen Hagar, and basically, he is somebody that's involved with Arya Stark, and I don't understand what the issue is with between them, but it's just a strange occurrence that he actually was in a cage and she was helping him, and then after that he like everywhere she went he was there. So I'm not too sure about this guy. So we're going to be talking about the review of the character Jaqen Hagar in the books, and also a little bit more about the Faceless Men organization. Now this video will actually be cut down into 5-minute increments. So the first 5 minutes will be about Jaqen Hagar, and the second version will be about the Faceless Men organization. It'll only be 5 minutes long, just because I don't want to make it too long. If you like to listen to the expanded version, I will be uploading only that on my website, which is watchthethroneroom.blogspot.com. So we're going to go ahead and get back to it. So Jaqen Hagar is the name of a sly Lorathi criminal who meets Arya Stark on her way to the Wall in the television adaptation of Game of Thrones, portrayed by Tom, can't say his last name. So we're going to move on. Jaqen Hagar wears long hair with one side colored white and the other side red. The man later changes his appearance to a hook-nosed man with a scar, a gold tooth, and a black curly hair. It is unknown whether this appearance is another disguise or the assassin's true face, though it is nearly identical to the alchemist. So we'll go ahead and talk about that in the expanded version. So he speaks in the traditional manner of Lorathi, and omitting names and avoiding first and second grammatical persons. So he never talks like you and she. A girl has no name, or a man has no name, or he just kind of changes it up a little bit. So he's never really like talking in first person terms. It's always second person. So Jaqen Hagar is also a part of the Joqen group of recruits taken from the King's Landing to join the Night's Watch. Just after the execution of Eddard Stark, he is the one of 3 prisoners found in the infamous Black Sails, the dungeons reserved only for the worst criminals. The other Black Sails criminals, Warge and Bitter, are afraid of him. Jaqen behaves in obscure manner, so people kind of like don't understand what's going on between Arya Stark and himself. And while being escorted to the Wall, when she was basically going to the Wall in the books, what happens is somebody else goes ahead and tries to attack in an abandoned town by God's Eye. Arya saves him and his 2 fellow prisoners from death by a fire. So that was kind of like the same adaptation that they did go ahead and portray in the show, in the actual show, TV show Game of Thrones. So getting back to her in the cage saving them, that's just like the show. So we're kind of touching on both ends at the same time. So what happens with that is that she basically is there with Jaqen Hagar in the books and also in the show. And every time he finds her, he tells her she's owed 3 deaths and to select 3 people to kill, that he would go ahead and kill for her. So repay the deaths she stole from the Red God. Arya uses him to eliminate 2 of the enemies that she wants dead. But basically he rejects her request for aid in another way. He just wants to kill. So just like the show, he asked that, who you want me to kill, and she did it. And it's like she owed him. So I don't know if it's like, I'm afraid to say it because it's like kind of like crazy. But I believe like it's kind of scary to think that this man is taking other people's faces. I don't think I want to hang out with him, but that's kind of the world that Arya's in. So Arya ultimately forces him to help free a northern man imprisoned by another group. So once the debt is filled, Jaqen prepares to take his leave, but he first gives Arya an old iron coin and instructs her to give it to any man of Bravo, saying the words Valar Morghulis, should she ever need some more help. So he gives her the coin basically so she can make it back to where he lives, because they know where that coin comes from majorly. And we'll go ahead and talk about that in a few moments in our expanded version. Basically, he then announces that Jaqen Hagar must die and passes a hand over his face and he magically reshapes into a hook-nosed man with the gold tooth. That's what he does, and it's not like he's just changing his face. He's changing everything. So in the Feast of Crows books, a man that claims to be an alchemist and matches the description of Jaqen's new face arrives in Old Town. He kills someone and the Citadel, and he basically, from my understanding, it might be a maester, because that's kind of what they do. They link chains together. So in this case, I guess there's some issues going on where in the book he does something a lot different. He goes and kills somebody, and he changes himself into the person he kills, and then he moves on. So that's kind of what's going on in the books. So another thing is that when he met Arya, he already knew her list that she had in the actual show. He knew he knew that, and he also knew a lot of things that somebody should not know when someone meets, and I just don't get it. So I also think that there are some things that I will be talking about in my next version of this, which I'll go ahead and expose a little bit more about the Faceless Men and the members of the Faceless Men, and a little bit more about Bravos and just who these people are. The organization is called the Faceless Men, and then there's also the Faith of Seven, and there's all kinds of different people. The Sons of Harpy, the Maesters, Small Council, Iron Baker Bravos, which is basically the same thing as the Faceless Men. And then there's the Dosh Khaleen, and there's the Warlocks, and there's the City Watch, and there's the Faith Militant, and there's Brotherhood Without Banners, and there's so much going on. So there's so many different organizations, and there's different cultures and different things going on, and we just gotta go ahead and talk about that a little bit later. So I ran this over my 6-minute period of time. Come back in a little bit, I'll be telling you a little bit more about the Faceless Men and the waif, a little bit more in depth. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Throne Room, and we'll be right back in a few moments with some more information.